when is it that the church and the state collide? First of all, the church and the state are going to collide when the church and the state overlap in inappropriate ways. You know why Peter and John were were arrested? Not because they healed a crippled man. That wasn't the cause for it. Not at this point because they were up preaching in the temple or around the temple. That was not uncommon for the various members of the various sects that gathered there to worship. But because they were teaching the resurrection. The Sadducees was one of the religious political organizations of the day. The Sanhedrin, the ruling council, would be made up of Pharisees, scribes, priests, and Sadducees. And the Sadducees, by the way we might look at things, they were the liberals. And they rejected a lot of the traditional beliefs of the Jewish people. And they did not believe in resurrection at all, in any form, in any fashion. And because they did not believe in resurrection, the initial conflict was because Peter and John were teaching about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It was the membership of this religious political group in the political organizations of the day that caused the first problem. When do the church and state collide? First of all, when they overlap. The history of our nation is evidence of that. Many people came over here seeking religious liberty, religious freedom. Among them was Roger Williams, an ordained Anglican priest. He was one who was protesting against the rule of the Anglican Church in England. He came over to the new colonies in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. As an ordained priest, he was immediately asked if he would go into service, and because they needed preachers and priests there. He began to do so, but he began to preach that which he believed and not the doctrine that the official state church sanctioned. So they tried him and banished him from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He went on to Rhode Island, and then he ended up founding Providence, Rhode Island. And there in Providence, Rhode Island, he founded the first Baptist church on American soil. If you go there today, you can see that church. The current sanctuary they worship in predates the Declaration of Independence. And there's a congregation, Baptist, worshiping there every Sunday and have been since way back in the early days of our colonies. Persecution would come about because of one particular group or brand or sect that would find itself empowered in government and then would use the tool of government to try to enhance its position. We saw this happen later in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. There were a group of Baptists in a small community. They objected to the paying of taxes to pay for a priest to come be the minister in their town when their town had no Anglican priest or minister. Instead, all they had was a little Baptist church. And a Baptist minister there objected. He protested, and he was arrested, and he was thrown into jail. And because of that protesting and because of the time he spent in jail, that Baptist congregation got together and they wrote a statement called a memorial. And they sent this memorial to the First Continental Congress as a form of protest, asking that the Continental Congress address this unfair position of being forced to pay taxes to support one particular church. Unfortunately, the leaders of the First Continental Congress received their message, and then said, this is not what this Congress was called to address, and sent those Baptists away, waiting for another time and another day. Eventually, that day came, And it was a long time coming. It came not during the Revolutionary War, not because of the Declaration of Independence. It came not because of the victory in the Revolutionary War. It didn't come because of the establishment of the Articles of the Confederacy, the first form of government that we had as a nation. And it didn't come because of the Constitutional Convention that came together and wrote our U.S. Constitution, mainly done by John Madison and Thomas Paine. It came because of the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. On the back of your notes, I give you the original language of the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. There actually were 13 amendments, but only 10 of them were adopted by the required number of the states. And you see them there. And the very first amendment of the Bill of Rights has to do with religion. It says, Congress shall make no law regarding the establishment of a religion, nor prohibit the free exercise thereof. That's the statement about religious freedom. The point I would make to you this morning, that statement came about because there was a concern by Americans that there be in this land religious liberty. And that dangerous overlap between one group in power and government forcing their religious views on everyone else not happen in this land anymore. At the time the First Amendment was adopted, of the 13 colonies, 5 of them had official church organizations. There were official churches supported by the state in 5 of the colonies. One by one, that official support was dropped because of the First Amendment. The church and the state collide when the church and the state overlap.